Hello there and welcome back. Today I have the immense joy to present you the new Moog Labyrinth. I've played with this new device for a few weeks. Actually, at the moment of this review, this hasn't even been announced. There's no manual, and it's a very interesting instrument. Something that kind of steer out of the usual path of Moog. And I have to say, it's really fascinating, it's really fun to use, and today I'm gonna try to explain to you how it works, what it is, and how can you use it. So I decided to pair it with the Enjoy Lab Godfather, because of course they are the same size, they work pretty well together. While this has an internal sequencer that make it pretty interesting, and what you just hear was completely made inside the Labyrinth, I will also use later on the Metropolix as an external sequencer, because this can be used as a kind of normal synthesizer, but the real magic happens when you use its internal generative parallel sequencer. All right, before going on and explain you what's happening here, the few ways you can support my page, please hit the like button and subscribe. Buy from the affiliate link down below. You will spend the same amount of money. I get a tiny percentage no matter what you're gonna buy. Please be sure that the cookies are enabled, otherwise it will not work. And finally, you can become a Patreon. On Patreon, I do one-on-one, I reply to all of your questions, and you will find at this point hundreds of exclusive video, files, project, whatever. It's a good community and it's growing. All right, so let's go back at it. Let's forget everything else at this moment. Let's actually turn off anything, so no effects. What is Labyrinth? Labyrinth is a parallel generative analog synthesizer. It's made by two oscillators, and you can see it here. One is the VCO, the main oscillator, which output a sine wave. And then you have a mod VCO. The mod VCO is a triangle wave, and it can go in a very low frequency, so it can act as an LFO, but also can be used as a modulator for the main oscillator or as another voice, so you can create counterpoint between the two voices. You have then a couple of interesting things. The two voices go inside a mixer in this part of the synth. You have a noise level, and the noise generator is actually have a tone, so it can be more white, brown kind of noise. Then you have a ring modulator. Then, from the mixer, the signal is split in two directions. This is like how these synths start being pretty unique. One part of the signal, which is the sum of all of these, goes to the filter, which is an interesting take on a filter, because the filter here, you can see here, it has a resonance and a filter mode, and it's a continuous filter mode in which you can morph from a low pass to a band pass. Obviously, most of the things that I'm saying are CV controllable from the patch bay here. On top of the filter, you see there a wavefolder. You see the wavefolder already in another product of Moog, that is the Mavis, which was a pretty new take, because I don't think any other product before had a wavefolder on the Moog line. So you have these two paths, here it is, and then you can blend from here, this blend control between the filter path or the wavefolder path. But also you can decide the order in which this journey, the sound travel through this path. So you have a parallel, mean that at this point the blend would mix between the fully wavefolder signal or the filter signal, or it can go first in one of these two. For example, in this case, the order would be first the signal go into the wavefolder, then it goes in the cutoff, and then it goes into the blend signal. So in this case, things get a little more complex because, for example, if we have everything on the filter and you put the blend on filter, then you will hear the signal going through here, folder, cutoff, and out. But if you put it on the wavefolder, then you will also have this signal coming in. So I'll show you. It can sound a little complicated, but it allows you to create interesting sound and soundscape. You can, of course, control the blend through CV. Each of these two signal paths have two modulation points, one made by the envelope generator and one made by the internal sequencer. Once we hit the blend and we come out, we have the volume, which is your VCA, and that's it. Then you have the sequencer section. So the sequencer section is really interesting. Instead of calling the step, they've been called bits. You have two parallel sequencer made of 8 steps. Now, this 8 step can be made shorter, 7, 6, whatever step you want, or you can also decide to chain the two sequences and make a single sequence of 16 steps. A lot of things are normal inside the Labyrinth to make your life easier, and as this kind of product from Moog, you can play it basically without any cable, so out of the box you can already play it. So the sequence 1, this top one, is normal to the VCO, main VCO frequency. The second one is normal to the mod VCO. Okay, let's start playing so you will understand more. So I'll tune everything off. So right now I'll start the internal sequencer. Nothing happening, of course. Let's bring in VCO1. So the fun part here is like you have this trig mix. The trig mix can be moving from sequence 1 to sequence 2. When it's fully counterclockwise, we have, let me turn off a little the volume, we are gonna hear only what happened in the sequence 1. As you can hear, there's 2 bits here that control the frequency of the main VCO. But if I move it fully clockwise, now we are listening to the second sequence. Every position in between, it creates different variation. So right now I have a 7-step sequence in the sequencer 2. And even this one is 7, so let's make it different. So let's, with length, you can choose, as you can see, the length. So now this is gonna be 8 step and this 7. So you can create sorts of interesting polyrhythm. Now you are asking me how you set up the tone, the notes of it. Whenever a beat is created, a random voltage is created inside of it. Now this voltage can be random or can be quantized to scale. In this moment, I'm having it quantized to a minor scale. You have a lot of scale here. You press this button, bit shift, and then you can move to scale, as you can see. So I know that number 5 here is a minor, so I'll keep that. Whenever I want to add a bit, I can press bit flip, as you can see. I added more bit. You can hear also the bit on the sequence 2, and the fun part is like the VCA, it will be triggered at different volume. So right now, only these 2 at the maximum volume. Right now we have only sequencer 1. In the middle, you will have all of these interesting change of volumes. I forgot, I was going to mention that also these, let's actually remove some beat here. When you press a beat, when it's on an already flipped beat, you will delete it. So here it is. You have a control little called sequence 1 CV range, and here you have sequencer amount. With sequencer amount, you are telling the VCO to listen to the sequencer, and if you go fully clockwise, it's quantized, meaning that it will be quantized to a scale. And then the CV range decide how you spread the CV, the notes. For example, right here, I'm giving a moderate amount of sequencing CV to the VCO. And as you can hear, it's not quantized. So this is good for inharmonic, rhythmical stuff, but if you go fully clockwise, now you will be quantized on a scale. And if I move the CV range, I will have a bigger pool of notes from lower octave to higher octave. So right now we have a sequence going on. If you decide to trig the sequence just with sequence 2, now the main oscillator will listen to these notes because sequence 1 is normal to that, but it will be triggered with this one here. So it will create interesting variation. Then let's bring in mod oscillator. It's a triangle and is normal to this one. Same as before, I bring the quantization high. And that's it. Now, this can sound, boring, but the fun part starts when you move this corrupt. Corrupt is a value that until noon will change just the pitch of the beats, but above noon will change both the pitch and add randomly new beats. Needless to say, let's make things a little more enjoyable, right? Tiny bit of reverb, tiny bit of delay. Already interesting, right? So, right now we have this thing going on. I am clocking everything through Metropolix because then Metropolix will do some sequencing before, but of course you have a internal tempo. If you clock here and clock 1, this will clock everything else. Now, once you find something that you like, you can turn corrupt to 0, so nothing will change. This sounds a little 9 Inch Nails, huh? Let's listen to the sound right now. As mentioned before, I have the order here. Now I'll listen in parallel. So what you're listening right now, it's the main frequency, main VCO, going through the mixer. In the mixer we have only that, then into the filter, and then I'm blending only the filter. We can play a little, for example, turning the cutoff down and adding some EG, envelope generator 1. And we can also make the pitch of the beats sequence modulate the filter. This would be, for example, just listening to the triggers of sequence 1, but if we go in the middle, then there's also these two triggers that create some nice evolving rhythm. And this is great to create sort of rhythmical bongos, whatever you want to call it, for example. I am shortening the decay. I can bring in the noise. This is without anything, of course. Then you can bring in the second oscillator. Some ring modulation. Now you have a sort of snare going on with the bongos too. Pretty cool. Nice. Now we are listening to only the mod oscillator. And let's bring now the folder, the wavefolder. Let's bring everything down. This is just the main oscillator. So this is the minimum wave folding, and here you start folding and folding. This is the bias. You can also let the sequencer modulate it. And now you are free to blend the two signals. You don't have any attack control. You can kinda create something with the patch bay, but I feel this is more of a happy accident machine, rhythmical and simple sine melody. Let's talk about this order, because that's a little complicated. At the beginning I was a little confused. So let's make the order that the signal goes first in a wavefolder and then into the filter. What's happening? I'm putting the blend through the filter. So the signal goes here, folder, filter cutoff, and then in the blend. It means that first the signal become folded, and then I can have a chance to filter it, which is pretty useful because sometimes the signal folded get a little confused. I had some corruption to change the note. When I find something that I like, I remove the corrupt so the notes stay the same. Forgot to mention, this machine has no preset except for one. You can save pressing buffer here, and you will have in the memory only one sequence. It's not meant to be something that you save, but it's meant to be played. If I move the filter here, then I can go back to listen to exclusively the folder. And the order, let's do the different order. So now first the signal is filtered and then goes into the folder. And here I would listen to just the cutoff. As you can hear, it's very cool the range of sound you can get. Turning off that because I know somebody of you will say, with effects. Listen to this, it's pretty cool. Bring some resonance up. Now the filter was in bandpass, so let's put it in low pass. Sounds pretty cool. And then you can always move between the envelope generated by sequence 1 and then add this one. As you can hear, there's something coming in. Let's bring in the effects. Nice, crunchy stuff. Let's go back in parallel. Then you can add some FM modulation. One trick that I really love to do is this. I would stop everything, reset my buffer, so now there's nothing happen, and you do it by pressing buffer and reset. You can reset everything. So now you have 2 sequence of 8. I will put the sequence 2 shorter, so 7. I will put 1 beat anywhere, or maybe 2. Let's reset also everything. The mixer works like whenever you are more than noon, the signal will start getting distorted, crunchier. So let's now use this cable to send sequencer trig 2. So these 2 trig will flip the bit on my other sequencer. As you can see, every time that this is click, 1 bit is flipped here. But then they will cancel because they will be flipped again. So this will create an ever-changing sequence. So this is your happy accident machine in the way that right now the sequence will change constantly. We can put a little of corrupt. Bring in the let's bring the other one. Absolutely love creating this very dreamy, dark sequence. Some noise. Let's modulate the cutoff. So I don't want to keep this because now this is just the beginning. As you can imagine, there's so many things you can do. You have here a full, very comprehensive patch bay with all the outs, all the in. You can of course modulate things. So right now I was using the VCO as another tonal machine, but I could also use it as a low frequency. And then I can pick the out of it and modulate, for example, the blend. Let's see, where is the blend? Here. Pretty easy and already interesting sound. It's definitely something that goes out of the what you expect from Moog, which I love. It's a great, interesting departure from that to explore different territories. Again. You can corrupt the second one and add beats, see what up. So from something tonal now, we are into some percussive situation, which is very nice. Again, this is without. Cool sound. I love, of course, I think this is meant to be used with effect to me. We are in parallel. We can experiment with different order. I forgot to mention, we can press chain sequence. Now, as you can see, nothing, I cannot do with this technique because it will delete. Now you have a full, not 16, I need to put this length to 8. Oh. Now I have a 16 sequence, 16-bit sequence. Okay, before closing and moving and say goodbye, how does it work when something else sequences it? Very nicely, I have to say. So, we want to remove all the sequence amount on the VCO. And there's this technique that I really like. I like to use the Metropolix or any other sequencer to sequence the pitch, but I will use the internal trigger to trigger them. So let's run this sequence. Let's run the So now the pitch comes from the Metropolix. And I have more control for the pitch because here the pitch are always random. Here I can have my sequence gone. Let's just listen to the filter. So what can happen now that I have different way to trigger that? Let's put back to a double chain sequencer. Now it's the sequence 2 that triggers my envelope, or I can put sequence 1. Or everything in between. This is beautiful. So this is best of both worlds, because right now I will have the chance to decide my pitch. It's gorgeous. I have the frequency, the mod VCO modulating the blend. I really love it. Somehow, there's some affinity, I don't know why, I'm not a big expert on the Buchla easel, but somehow I managed to get similar things because he has a very similar architecture if you think about it. You have one main oscillator, you have a mod oscillator, and then a plethora of ways to make them interact. This is gorgeous. Let's bring some dirt. Let's go in bandpass. Of course, the pitch of the sequencer can modulate still part of your things. So for example, we can decide to bring some modulation in the pitch, but then of course things will be weird because the oscillator will receive this pitch and this pitch, but you can sequence the lower one that you will then interact with the blend. So here it is. Now with just this machine, some pitch sequenced here and some reverb and delay, listen what you just created. Let's remove some flip, some beat here. And let's make it shorter, like 5, and let's do that trick of before. And now, this will happen. Beautiful. I'm loving it. So if I like what I'm hearing, I can press this, and now it's saved. Means that even if I turn on and off, it will be there. Okay, I think, and I hope, I gave you a quick, not that quick, but a good way to understand. I'm sure people that are way more versed than me in industrial, rhythmical noises will have a good use of the Labyrinth. For me, this is gorgeous already. This is something that I don't have with other synths. I love how the blending, these two signals make this super crunchy, interesting tone. Okay, I think this is enough for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. If you are considering buy one of these, please maybe use one of my link down below. It would be super, super helpful to keep me going. Also, let me thank Moog for sending one ahead of time and let me test. I really appreciate you. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.